Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julia Snodgrass, and I'm here today to present our project, hands-on training sessions to improve advanced therapeutic endoscopy techniques at an academic children's hospital. So, as we know, endoscopy is critical for the management of children with complex GI disorders. Hands-on experience with advanced techniques and new equipment has been identified as a potential area of improvement at Children's Mercy Case Study. Our aim with this project is to improve provider scoring on a practice-based test on technical aspects of these advanced endoscopy techniques by 20% over pre-practice session testing. So the areas that we really wanted to focus on was hemostatic techniques, polypectomy, and esophageal dilation. Specifically, things like safety measures if a colon or a valve is perforated, how to stop the bleeding and control that, situations like that. And newer techniques that were safer for the patient, had better recovery time, things like that was what we were focusing on. We set up a multi-station model. There was 5 stations with hands-on demonstrations with providers at each station to teach the techniques that they were best at. And we had a pig stomach model and animal-only endoscopes on loan. Demonstrators at each station provided their own test questions. Our outcomes measure was improvement test scores. We had a goal of 20%. Our process measure was the percent of total providers and trainees attending this activity, our goal being 50%. And our balancing measure was the amount of time committed to this training, and our goal being less than 2 hours. Attendees also had the option of rating the utility of the activity on a 5-point Likert scale. So for this, we really were looking at the barriers preventing providers from expanding their skill sets and expanding the types of techniques and equipment that they use in procedures. Some of the things we found was the cost, there wasn't a very cost-effective way already established at Children's Mercy to explore these. The time constraints, obviously, everyone's schedules are busy, and finding a safe non-patient opportunity in a learning safe environment. So I know it's very small print, but here's the example of the 12 questions. They were identical for the pre-test and the post-test that we gave out to providers. For example, some of the things that we asked was, what age is it safe to do banding techniques on? Or what color of band indicates that it's the last band left in your supply? Things like that to really get a hold of some technical aspects that they might not learn in a more patient-set environment. So to set up this endoscopy model, we used a plastic storage bin. It had a hole cut in one side for the esophagus to go through. We had an animal-only endoscopes at each station that were on loan. We had porcine, esophagus, and stomach at each station as well. We put bubble wrap around the esophagus and stomach to recreate intra-abdominal pressure, and ice packs in some of them at stations that had ablation techniques, just for temperature regulation, to make sure we didn't burn through any plastic bins. So we had 14 providers come to our activity. That was 70% we adjusted for providers on medical leave. And then there was 5 fellows, 4 attendings with 6 to 10 years of experience, and 5 attendings with over 11 years of experience. That was over our goal of 50% for our process measure. Our balancing measure was at goal, with all respondents reporting 2 hours committed to the activity, and 100% of participants rated the activity as very useful on the Likert scale. Testing scores improved from 51.3% at baseline, and then an average post-test score of 76.6%. So definitely above our baseline. And one thing I wanted to add was that I had a very unique perspective, being a student, observing attendings and my mentors and people like that at their own training sessions. And I think the thing I noticed the most was how excited and enthusiastic that providers were. I think as students, we don't really take into consideration the continuity of education, but I think that speaks to the environment that Children's Mercy has established, like a safe learning environment where they can communicate, still be competitive, and have fun learning in the process. So in conclusion, our provider scoring on endoscopy practice tests improved by 25.3% over baseline. However, the benefit was greater for trainees and more junior providers. So future sessions, we want to communicate with the more senior providers and focus on how we can meet their educational needs. We didn't have any disclosures. So does anyone have any questions for me?
The SIM person, I'm going to kick it off with the first question. Was there any thought given or consideration given to doing a skills-based pre and post test as opposed to a medical knowledge-based pre and post test?
We've talked about that, doing that in the future. We didn't want providers to feel like they had to perform well. We wanted them to explore the new techniques first, especially because this was their first exposure to a lot of the techniques and the equipment. But we definitely discussed that for subsequent sessions.
Yes.
Julia, this is the second presentation I've seen you do today, and I'm struck by how you use process and outcome and balancing measures. And I'm just curious, do you have like specific training around how to set up this QI, or was it your mentor, or how did you apply kind of these QI concepts to this project?
Actually, Dr. Attard, our primary mentor on this project, is very well versed in QI projects and things like that. So he's been a great learning tool because before these two projects, I had no experience in quality improvement. But yeah, thank you. Oh, yes.
Can I ask, how was this funded? How were you able to get all this stuff?
This was, the 2 hours that we allotted to this was actually already an administrative time slot set aside. We didn't want to take the time away from patients or already set up encounters. So if I believe correctly, this was more Dr. Attard's side of the project. This was already funds set aside for administrative learning activities for the 2 hours.
Who purchased the pig stomachs?
That was definitely Dr. Attard's job. I set them up, but.
How much time is spent on this project?
I think the administrative side of it was definitely not taken care of by me because I'm not employed at Children's Mercy. But I think we got there just a few hours before, so 2 hours at the activity, and then a few hours to grade the papers and set up charts and things like that, and discussions with the other authors. So, and not as long as you think for such a great project that Dr. Attard set up. So like 8 hours.
Did you notice a difference in performance pre and post based on years of experience?
I didn't observe the actual stations because I was taking up the tests and grading the tests and things like that. So I'm not sure.
We're done with questions. Thank you very much.